I know why the caged bird sings.
Why? The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown, but longed for.
And his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings
Of freedom.
My mind is stayed on freedom, and I'm not gonna let nobody turn me round.
The Texas Southern University debate team is happy to make this Reader's Theater presentation, scripted exclusively for this Juneteenth occasion by head coach Dr. Gloria Batiste Roberts, entitled, "And Freedom Did Come." It's based on selected slave narratives and excerpts from other classic literature.
Battered and beaten by the bludgeoning of seas, we landed on these shores, only to learn that we will be excluded from those who could sing with pride.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
But there was no freedom for us, bound by the shackles of slavery, though we cried day and night.
Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
No more moaning, no more mourning, no more mourning over me.
No more weeping over me.
They'll be singing, they'll be singing, they'll be singing over me.
And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
What was life like on the days of slavery? One report from the diary of a Texas slave girl gives us a bird's eye view of what many young ladies had to endure.
I'd entered my 15th year, a sad story in the life of a slave girl. My master had begun to whisper foul words in my ear. He peopled my mind with unclean images, with only a vile monster could think of. He told me that I was his property, that I must be subjected to his will at all times and in all things. My soul revolted against this tyranny, but where could I go? What could I do? I confided in my grandmother and told her about my ordeals, and all she could do was hold me in her arms and say, "Poor child, oh, poor child."
What was slavery like during the days of slavery in Texas? Listen to the stories of these Texas slaves.
Now my name is Richard Carruthers. Oh, us slaves had a praying ground down in the hollows. Sometimes we'd come out of the field 11, 12 o'clock at night, scorching, burning, praying for the Lord to have some mercy on us. Oh, we wanted to ask the good Lord for mercy, so we put a grease or oil in a bottle and made a small lamp. We took a pine torch too, and we went down to the hollows to pray. Oh, some got so joyous that they started to holler loud and we had to sop up their mouths. I saw folks so full of the Lord and free that they dropped unconscious.
My name is Sarah. Mrs. could have helped me, but she didn't. She hated me just because of the tension Massa gave me. She was incapable of feeling for the conditions of shame and misery in which her unfortunate helpless slave was placed.
We were treated like animals.
We were not allowed to own property.
We were forbidden by law to read or write.
We lived in one-room shacks with dirt floors.
Some of us had no shoes. Slavery was bad in Texas.
What heartache and pain that had to be endured is reflected in the confessions of this slave.
Great. Auction day. So I thought. Boy, was I wrong. I learned that auction day could be good or bad. It could be sold to a horrible master or a nice one. And they put 3 lines on your arm, because there were 3 types of slave: blood slave, sex slave, and work slave. Well, I had only been 2 kinds: blood slave and work slave.
But I had been a sex slave. Hear my story, my past. I put my head down, letting my hair fall over my face, wishing this would just end. The guard grabbed my chin and forced me to look into the crowd.
Now she has had 7 past masters. With these qualifications, shall we start the bidding off at 500? Do I hear 600?
800.
Do I hear 1,000?
1,000.
1,000. Going once, going twice, sold to His Majesty H. Tricky of Richmond, Texas.
I remember those dreadful auction days. I was beat one last time by my master, then pushed onto the stage with tears in my eyes. I could hear people laughing and whispering. The bidding got up to $2,000. Then I was pushed back to my old masters, and they pushed me onto a room with 5 men with evil grins on their faces. And next I know, I was out.
For me, the defining moment in my life came the day my family was scattered to the winds without even the privilege of saying goodbye to one another. I was sold to a William Mayday of Rosenberg, Texas for $700. Taken his farm where I learned the realities of slavery. For instance, my master said to me that I must always take off my hat, step to the side and say, yes sir, or no sir when I met a white man, or else suffering a whipping. And there was no let up in our work. They worked us 16 hours a day and explained at the outset that if we defied his authority, his duty would be to kill us. Because killing a slave was the same thing as killing a hog.
To be sure, some endured the dehumanization brought in their life by slavery, but not all. Many couldn't take it, and so revolted.
Many could not take it, and so
Brought their own lives to an end.
They said Negroes won't commit suicide.
That ain't so. No, that ain't so. When Adeline hung herself on a blackjack tree, on the other side of the pool where they used for ducks and stock, she hung herself to keep from getting a whipping. Ahead of her time, she said to her mama that she would rather kill herself than be whipped. And she did.
Yes, it was hard on many of us, but there were a few fun times, like
Hog killing time. When the first cold weather came, fattened pigs were slain and we had provision for the whole year.
most times things were hard on us, but not always.
Some masters allowed us to have our own church and to sing our own songs. And did we sing until the Holy Ghost came upon us and we started to jump about and speak in tongues.
I learned this song and sang it everywhere I went.
Steal away to Jesus. And I learned this song and sang it everywhere I went.
Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt's land, and tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
And I learned this song and sang it everywhere I went. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
And learned this song and sang it everywhere I went.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home.
And war did come, bringing with it horrible encounters.
We hold dear in our memory for those who fought for freedom, but never realized it in their own lives.
For who the news of freedom arrived too late.
And we pledge to them to live in such a way that all those who gave the last full measures of their devotion will not have died in vain. So help us God.
So help us God.
So help us God.
So help us